Let's talk about some spiritual truths, shall we? Hey everybody, I'm Mystic Brew, founder of Return to Self, where I help you remember who you were before what? Correct. The world taught you who to be. Great job, you're learning. And this is Hot Girl Math, where we solve energetic equations. We take the cosmic clues from the universe and decipher what we are being given and told by the powers that be. In today's episode, I wanted to share some spiritual truths with you. Little t truths, and that's important. This is a concept that I learned when I was being trained to be a high consciousness living coach. And this is about the fact that there is really one big T truth and a bunch of little t truths. And I want to make sure that I explicitly illustrate that, because a lot of us run around talking about truths as though they're big T truths and they're little t truths. Now, what does that mean? A capital T truth or a big T truth is the absolute truth. And I personally am not someone who believes in a lot of absolutes, because I think there's always room for contradiction. But the absolute truth that I do co-sign with is the fact that we are limitless consciousness beings having a human experience. Now, everything beyond that can be a little t truth in my book, because we all have a different way of perceiving the truth from our experience. Now, I share that because I'm going to say a lot of things in this video that you either will not agree with and are surprised that you agree with, or will make you wonder if I'm batshit crazy. All of that is okay with me, so don't worry about it. Either way, these are just things that I have acquired over time from my insights, my downloads, my perceptions, my own hot girl math that I have been experiencing for many years now. That is not to say that it's your truth, and that's okay. However, if I share anything with you today that you're like, I want to know more, just let me know in the comments and I can expand into a whole other video, because all of these different things can go in much more depth and explanation. But as for this video, we're kind of going to do a little bit of rapid fire, because I decided, I'm like, let me just write down whatever comes top of mind. I have about 30 things here. So as always, grab a snack, grab a beverage, get comfortable. So let's begin. First of all, there is no ascension without descension. This is something I see very much in the spiritual space on social media. When we talk about ascension, everyone's horny for ascension, but no one talks about the descension process. And the imagery that I was always given for this is a tree. They tend to use nature a lot when trying to explain. And when I say they, I mean the ascended masters, the powers that be, God, the universe, whatever. To me, they're all very interchangeable because it's all connected. They show me a tree and they always tell me the ascension, which would be the tree growing in mass scale, is directly proportionate to the depth of its roots. And so in your own spiritual journey, when you are so focused on ascension, like, oh, I want to be above this. First of all, that's a trap. That's an ego trap. That's a whole other video. You cannot grow if your roots are not deep and sturdy. And so the shadow work journey that I focus on with a lot of clients is that journey. It is the descension journey. It is going into your personal underworld, because in order for that tree to grow and to withstand the seasons, it needs to be sturdy underground. But a lot of people don't want to go underground because they don't want to do the descension. They're only focused on the ascension, and that is a superficial journey. It will not last, and you will find yourself repeatedly disappointed because things crumble because you're not going to the root. Next, you are meant to be here. You are not meant to transcend this place. If you weren't meant to be here, you wouldn't be here. It's that simple. But you're here having a human experience for a reason. There is a trap that many people in the spiritual community get caught up in, where they feel like they are above this. Like, you need to be beyond this. Earth is like this ghetto place that you shouldn't be in. That's horrible. Horrible language. It's part of the journey. I'm not judging or shaming you. I'm just saying, when you truly go through the process, the spiritual journey will lead you back to your humanity, because you're here for a reason. It is all cyclical. And you will come back to the point where you realize that part of your divinity is truly experiencing and honoring your humanity. It is honoring the sensational experience of being here, truly sensational, because you get feelings here. Before, you were just a vibration, you were a frequency, you didn't have a body that was able to transmit all of the wisdom and the information that you receive. And so you are meant to be here to experience the physical realm and the wisdom that it has to give you. Which leads me to the next point. You're here to experience the physical representation of the collective unconscious. We are doing that now. What you experience in your reality is tapped in the collective unconscious. And before I even move on, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're like, what's your source? It's source. Okay, these are divine downloads. These are things that I didn't read in a book or that I learned in here. If you're like, oh my God, they said it in this book. Okay, great. Confirmation, great. I tend to receive information on my own. I don't like to seek out a lot of information until I'm ready to open myself up to other people's point of view or other people's perspective, because I don't like to be influenced when it comes to these things. I want to experience on my own, gnosis, direct knowing, and then we can dibble dabble in what other people believe. And what I've also found, just as a side note, is that a lot of times I find the same resonance or same idea just expressed a little differently. And we see this a lot within our world as well. If you pay attention, it's the same thing, just like in a different font, in a different language, in a different expression, so that it resonates with a lot of different people, because we all receive information differently. And so information needs to be expressed differently. The entire universe is encoded in you. I got this during my first shrooms trip. The entire universe is within you. That's not just a cute cliche saying. It is true. Everything that is out there is in here. Heaven and hell are not physical places. They are states of consciousness, and you get to choose where you want to live every single day. We are constantly going between heaven and hell within our mind, within our mindset, within our perception of the world, and within the perception of ourselves. Now, what we are programmed to receive and what we see influences that a lot, which is why it gets dangerous, because then it manipulates your ability to choose and instead makes you feel like you have to be in this state and nothing above it is available to you, or whatever that might be for you. But heaven and hell are states of consciousness, and you can choose where you want to live each and every moment. Telepathy was our first language. That's another thing that I got during my first shrooms trip. Words were not a thing. When we were communicating with each other in the beginning, it was through feeling, it was through sense, because we were so clear within our vessel, within our being, that we could just be able to read each other's minds. So number one, telepathy is absolutely real. Are we there? I think we're there already. But not only is it real, it was our first form of language and communication. We all came from water, which is a sentient being. Water holds information, which I didn't even include this here, but you may have heard me speak about this before. Water is, in my mind, the way I see it, it is a vessel that allows things to move. So crying is really important to me. I don't do it just because I can't help myself. I actually tried to suppress my tears for a really long time. That's why I spent nearly 5 years convulsing on the floor, just crying because of all the emotion that I wouldn't allow my body to express, which becomes trapped emotion, energy in motion. And your tears are a vehicle for whatever activations or codes, the energy that's trapped within your body to flow out. That is a cleansing. It is literally like the soul taking a shower. The deepest wound within society right now is the denial of the mother. And this is within the home, within society, within religion, and within the foundational framework of creation. Because again, when you see it in the micro, it's in the macro. Everything ripples. So you see it in many different environments, whether it's a grand scale or small individual scale. Our denial of the mother is our denial of earth, our denial of creation, our denial of everything that allows you to be here. And so that is a very core foundational root. And the healing that we need to experience in order for us to experience balance in this realm is to reintegrate the mother within our life within the realm, not only just acknowledging the mother, but honoring the mother. There is no life without the mother. We are currently in the midst of two polarizing realities collapsing into one, and the goal of this collapse is to experience true balance and harmony. A lot of people like to talk about a utopia or a dystopia, which would be the extremes. Neither one is truly real, is the best term I can come up with, because, which I'll talk about later, contrast always exists. Because without this, there is no that. It's like, again, with the shadow and the light. There is no light if there is no shadow, and there is no shadow if there is no light. They are intrinsically entangled. And so what we are experiencing right now, and what I've been shown for the last few years, is there are two, I don't know if they're worlds, parallel realities, timelines, whatever it might be, that have been collapsing into one another. It's a merging. It's like two infinities that are slowly coming together, and it's creating almost like what is it called? The Venn diagram, but it's something else. A vesica. I don't know. I'll look it up later, or look it up for me if you don't mind. There is an integration piece within these two. That's why we're experiencing such heavy extremes that can make us feel like we're living in different worlds, or people are in another world but they're right across from us. It's like there is a level of consciousness that is integrating together and merging into one. There is no creation without destruction. We need both. And this goes into the dialogue about men and women. Now, again, generalizing things in dichotomy isn't always the healthiest, but in certain conversations, in order to get the foundational framework, it's necessary. And so a lot of times men are associated with destruction because they are able to destroy. They have the strength, the brawn to be able to destroy. They are the warriors to destroy. Women are usually associated with creation because they literally give birth, they give life, they create life. Does that mean men can't create and women can't destroy? Absolutely not, because these are technically energies. It's yin and yang. It's all within each of us. But the point is that you cannot create without destruction, and you cannot destroy if something has never been created. So similar to what I was just saying, they are intrinsically connected. Everything is hidden in plain sight, and there is no such thing as a coincidence. If anything, I call it a God wink, but there's no such thing as coincidence, and everything is hidden in plain sight. Do not rule anything out. If you really want to be on this hot girl math, then you're not going to rule anything out. And it's not necessarily like, now everything's like the image I always get with this is Jim Carrey in that one movie from like 100 years ago. What was it called? Like The Number 23, or you know what I'm talking about, that movie? He's been in a lot of movies, by the way, that are telling us something. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, right? That's what it's called. The Truman Show, obviously, hello. So many other things, but there was a movie that he was in where, you know, he was doing all the numerology, and all of a sudden it's like this, and like you feel that way, like it's a little twinge of psychosis, but it's like it's part of the journey, you know. But it's just like when you open your eyes to start seeing everything that the universe is offering to you and showing you, it's hard to turn it off. You can't. So yeah, you may feel a little cray-cray, but that's why we're here, so we can come together and have these conversations, so you know you're not alone. There are souls who have reincarnated at this time, who are asked to master holding the tension of the opposites. I've talked about this on the series, in order to complete this merging of energies collectively. These souls were tasked with constant trips, for lack of a better term, between the upper world and the underworld in order to plant seeds of quantum patterning in both until they were stirred into each other so deeply that they create a new frequency altogether. This was an image I kept seeing because I am one of those people who has been traveling through the upper and underworld. It's like, you can feel the shift. If this resonates with you, if you're one of these people, you can feel it. It's like nothing changes outside of you. It looks the same, but the density is different. Maybe the hues are a little different, but you can just sense it. You can feel it. If that's one of your heightened senses, you can feel like, oh, I'm in a different place, energetically. And you may be, you know, like when I do the underworld dips, it's like, ooh, I'm more irritable, like the shadow turns up, right? And that's how I know too, versus like when I'm, you know, neutral and calm. And what I would get image wise to like visualize this and to conceptualize what's happening is, as you're moving, you're receiving this quantum patterning, these codes from each, because they both hold wisdom. And again, I said we are here to master harmony and balance. And if you followed my work, then you know I always tell you there is no balance, there is no harmony if you don't know your extremes. Because how can you know the midpoint if you don't know the end points? So you are swinging, moving, tripping through each one, and you are bringing the codes to each. So then it's almost like they showed me like a stirring, like when you stir two ingredients together so much that it turns into something else where the two merge together. And this is also kind of like what the process of self-individuation by Carl Jung looks like on a mass scale. It is like each person does the work for themselves, and that's how we change collectively. The issue for a long time is that people thought that in order to change the world, you got to change the world. And that's why I'm like, no, you change yourself. That is the greatest gift you can give the world. And you may think it's no big deal because it's just you, but it is, again, a ripple effect. It only takes one variable, one catalyst to change the entire environment. So if nothing else, choose to focus on your personal healing. And the trap that gets people is that you start focusing on everyone else. Well, they got to do this. They got to change that. Hello, been there. That's a distraction. That's the ego trapping you again. Your main mission is to focus on yourself. It is not selfish. That was another trap, to make you think that it's selfish to focus on yourself. That is the greatest gift you can give humanity. It is not about focusing on yourself to the point where your needs and your wants and whatever else is more important than everyone else. It is focusing on yourself to make sure that you are showing up in the world in alignment so the world can receive the energy, the gifts, the change that it requires, because you are participating in that change by changing yourself, which is the only thing that's under your control. Sorry if I'm talking really fast. It's two things. One, I want to make sure we're not here for like 3 days. And two, when I'm talking about things like this, it's flowing out. So, we gotta keep going. So as I said, as each individual comes into balance within themselves, the collective scale tips. So you are playing a huge role when you focus on yourself. So make that the focal point of this journey for you. Just make sure, if this is calling to you, if you're watching this, it is part of your journey. Not everyone here is meant to heal. And that's something else we need to consider, because a lot of us stall our healing process because we feel like someone else needs to heal in order for us to heal. No, another ego trap. It's not about them, babe. They may have been just a pit stop on your journey. It's about you. And you can heal regardless of what someone else does or doesn't do, because it's not about them. So your focal point is you and doing what you know you're being called to do. And my guess is if you landed on this channel where I talk about a lot of weird shit, then you are on this journey. This is a hybrid planet where emotion, logic, and intuition come together in unison to create physical form. This is the holographic form of thinking. This is also the holographic form of being. It is the trifecta of combining emotion, logic, and intuition, which on the surface may seem like they contradict each other, but it's actually when they work in unison that allows us to create our reality from a grounded and whole place. Your interpretation of reality is a reflection of your psyche. Every experience is an opportunity to better understand what drives your system. Now, again, I know this type of language can trigger some people when it comes to privilege and when it comes to ignoring the systems and structures in place that have people operating in a place that they did not ask to be in, and it seems very dismissive. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking from almost like, I'm not going to say scientific because then the scientists will get really mad at me. I'm talking from a very cut and dry point. I'm not talking about morality. I'm not talking about ethics. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just saying that everything, which is the next point, everything is information. Everything is information. For my tech nerds, everything is code. Everything is just offering you opportunities to reflect on how you respond to things. So actually, here's a great example. If I said that and your response was, so what, poor people that's just a reflection of their reality, it's not the You're passionate about justice. That's information. One of my greatest gifts that I've learned that I have in order to offer this world, which is going to be great for what's happening right now, is perspective. It is allowing you to see what is beyond your awareness. So I love that that was your reaction, if that was your reaction, because the information that's being given to you through that is you care about justice, you care about equality, you're passionate about that. Now, what are you going to do with it? You can only recognize that which you've already met within yourself. Meaning, you cannot recognize depth if you haven't met that depth within yourself. You cannot recognize compassion if you don't have compassion with yourself. You cannot recognize honesty and truth if you do not embody honesty and truth within yourself. You can only see what you've already seen within yourself. Everyone is capable of heightened senses, psychic gifts, and healing power, but many have turned this off out of fear. I just want to be clear, what I do and the work I do is not special. It's just something that's been turned on my whole life, and thankfully, I've allowed myself to strengthen it, even though I didn't have the teachers and guidance that I thought I needed. I had a very unconventional path. But everyone has the capability of this. Everyone has access to many, many, many gifts, beyond what you can think. And I'll do an episode on the psychic intelligence gifts because I'm learning about that right now in a deeper way. And there's so much that we have access to, but like any muscle, you got to work it out. You got to train it. So it's about opening it up. It's about accepting that. And it's about utilizing it so that it gets stronger, just like any other muscle. There are those here who are here for domination, and there are those here for liberation. That is sort of the dichotomy that we keep seeing energetically when we go to those extremes. There's energy that is seeking domination over this place, this experience, and there are those who are here to help liberate this experience. And true liberation is an inside job. Your circumstances, your environment, your external reality, again, this may trigger some people, but just take it as ground level, no morality, no emotion. That is not the root. That is the echo. Your physical reality is the echo of what is happening on a spiritual, energetic sense, which means liberation that we want to experience externally begins internally, and it echoes out, which means those of us who do have the privilege to do this work and to experience things that others may not be able to experience because they are in survival mode, we are now given the responsibility to help uplift in this way. And we do this by showing up authentically, by having integrity, and by not being afraid to speak, to express against the injustices that are happening in the world. That is your call, to fight for those who cannot because they are in survival mode. So the true liberation is an inside job. That's why I focus on the shadow. Because the shadow is what keeps you holding back. It keeps you on autopilot. It keeps you in a loop. And as long as you're in a loop, you are easy to control and manipulate. And then they can program you to believe and do whatever it is that they want you to do. And now you become a robot to the system. But the second you start to really dive in, you do that ascension journey and you reclaim power and control of your own consciousness, they can no longer manipulate you. Which leads to my next point. By instilling fear, guilt, and shame, those are the big three. Those who desire domination can keep others disembodied, meaning detached from the body, meaning an empty vessel, meaning these empty vessels are then easier to control and manipulate. It's like hijacking a car. Now, it's fear, guilt, and shame specifically because these are the distortions of the lower three chakras. Fear with the root, shame with the solar plexus, and guilt with the sacral chakra. And those three bottom chakras are your physical chakras. They are the representation, the energy centers that have to do with your physical reality. So if those become distorted enough, then they are not operating at a level where you have a clear flow of energy to receive the insight, the guidance without distortion, which leads to the manipulation. There are those with the eye to see beyond the illusions, and there are those who fiercely protect the illusions, otherwise their reality collapses. And this is something else that requires a level of understanding that may not always be easy to hold. And it is that those that we may judge and ridicule for not understanding what we understand, we have to then understand that their entire reality, their entire identity, their entire understanding of this world is fixated on this being true, which may not actually be true. It may be an illusion that was fed to them, but they will protect it. The shadow will protect it. The psyche will protect it. The persona will protect it, because if that illusion collapses, so does their entire world. And that can be really terrifying for people. What we call unconventional healing methods, such as sound healing, herbalism, shadow work, shamanic readings, ecstatic dance, plant medicine, these are indigenous healing arts. These have been around way longer than any religion, than any other sort of method of healing that we accept today, and have then been discredited and repackaged as either delusional or a luxury experience. And that is a whole other story. Animals are powerful guides that are sent in for a reason. Dogs tend to enter your life when you need additional physical protection and are working on healing your yang energy. And then cats enter when you need additional spiritual protection and are working with yin energy. As I mentioned earlier, contrast will always exist, otherwise nothing exists. Oh my God. Excuse me. Lots of confirmation burps there. Now, this is another one that might ruffle some feathers. God and the devil are two sides of the same coin. It is the infinite all. It is the sun and the moon, the day and night, the conscious and the unconscious. So again, that contrast. Everything is alive because everything is energy. Separation is an illusion because everything is quantumly entangled, whether it's in this world or beyond this world. And the idea that God is anywhere but here is a lie. And lastly, a saying that you may have heard your entire life, and it's a beautiful saying, and it is also very, very true. The eyes really are the windows to the soul. And maybe you've noticed this. You can tell a lot about a person and what is either burdening their soul or how light and beautiful their soul is by looking them in the eye. That's why a lot of people fear eye contact, because it's almost like you can see into them. This is something that I've been told personally. People have been like, your eye contact is really intense. I mean, I'm just looking at you, like I'm looking at you, but I'm getting a lot of information when I'm looking into your eyes. It's telling me a lot. And people fear that, which is understandable. It can feel like you're being exposed a little bit. It can feel very intimate and vulnerable as well. And so again, it is paying attention to what the eyes are telling you, because they are showing you a soul story. So those are the spiritual truths that I wanted to share with you. My truths. They don't have to be your truths. And I always give myself permission to change my mind, because as you gain new information, things might change. And so I offer that to you as well. If anything that I said on this episode resonated with you, I would love to hear it. Let me know in the comments. And again, if there's anything I said that you would love to hear more about or expand or deepen, let me know in the comments and I will do a video on it. Until next time, take care of yourself and start paying attention to the cosmic clues.